What's up, Silas here. Just a few thoughts surrounding the Super Bowl. Philadelphia Eagles just beat the New England Patriots 41 to 33, and this was the second highest Super Bowl ever. It was a very exciting game, and I'm not too surprised that the game was exciting because, in my opinion, the last year of the NFL has been one of the most exciting years I've been aware of since I started watching and following football. I wasn't watching the games on TV, but I was watching the clips on the NFL Network online, as I mentioned in previous videos. They condensed an entire game down to about a 10 to 15 minute clip of highlights. It's not just the scores like on the NFL Red Zone thing that they had, but they show the top plays, turnovers, things like that, some injuries here and there. Keep it pretty interesting. I like watching it in that format. You can watch pretty much all the games of the season, all the games that happened that weekend, in the time it used to take to watch like half a game or something on regular TV, on broadcast TV or other forms, the long form. So one of the reasons one of the things I wanted to talk about in this video was how few people probably watch this. I know there are some people who I personally know were boycotting the season for several reasons. The specific reason being the ongoing national anthem, taking a knee, and so woke and raising of the fists and other kind of social influences, social issues coming into sports, and starting with, I mean, it's centralized with the Colin Kaepernick taking a knee thing. It's spread to other teams, and that has continued, and this has gone through a lot of professional sports, and this has disgusted some people, and they have stepped back. Now, one thing I'm wondering with some of these people is how much of something does that take for somebody to say this is no longer something that I want to deal with? I talked about this in the video of a lot, where I said, okay, somebody says, yeah, a lot of people do this. A lot of police do this, so there's a problem with the police. And then I go in and check and I say, okay, wait, the police that actually do that, it's less than 1%. It's not even less than 1%. It's a fraction of 1% actually end up doing this thing that you're saying. Yet that goes and makes you say the entire police force is negative. You know, Donald Trump says one or two things out of, he's been speaking, let's say he speaks for 10,000 minutes. Half a minute for one of those things, 30 seconds, one sentence or something, is something that you consider negative, and then you say, from that, he means all Mexicans are rapists. He hates all Mexicans. He hates this. He supports all white supremacists, because in this 30-minute speech, he talked about how two people at the protest, there was some good and some bad. Yet for some people, that's enough for them to be like, look, I'm done with Donald J. Trump. This is proof of him being a negative person. And just like this with the NFL, these athletes go through the entire year working in the gym, working out, learning the playbooks. You've been supporting these teams in some cases for years and years and years. You get a lot of joy from watching these people from whatever reason that you do. You get some joy from watching them, some excitement. But then the national anthem protest happens. Like one or two players on this entire team. This team could have a history of, I think the NFL is 75 years old. Let's say this team has had a 6-year history. You've been watching it in your family for those your whole life. It's been your family team. You have the memorabilia. Your kids go there. You have season tickets, and then some guy that's been traded to the team. Maybe he's been on the team for like 2 years. He's not really into like the whole like atmosphere of your team, but that guy decides to take a knee or raise his fist up, and for some reason in your life, now this could be a completely valid reason. I'm not saying people don't have valid reasons, but whatever the reason around this, they say this guy doing this for one or two games, maybe it's just one game, maybe it's one or two games or something. He does it before the even game. Besides that, he goes on the field and he still plays hard. He still gives it his all. Your team is still winning. Your team is still doing all that. But because one or two players did this for a fractional of the amount of time that you've dedicated to this team, that's enough for you to just write that team off. So it's kind of interesting how that has happened, and what goes into making those decisions. Because it's not just that thing, it's that straw that broke the camel's back. What was all that other straw? Where were you in your connection to the NFL where you decided like, yeah, that's it, I'm done. I'm just watching college football, or I'm doing something else in my life? Because I know there's a lot of other people, and I think that's a big thing. That could be a thing where some people are like, there's other things for me to do in my life, so it's time for me to actually go and do those things. And I think one thing to consider when it comes to what is the situation where this is the straw that breaks the camel's back is a lot of the people will be a lot more patriotic. For some people, the idea of America is a lot more tangible in their lives then is their fandom for the sport. I think everyone has maybe some kind of you have some kind of HP meter. Let's say it's like a role playing game. You have certain points to allocate to every single feature or skill or talent or ability that you have, or affinity. And I think you have a situation where we all have a limited fandom like bar. Maybe we can only allocate like 20 points. We have certain points we're going to allocate to different aspects of our fandom. And for some people, 15 points is allocated to nationality. For some people, 1 point is allocated to nationality. So they can put those things in other things. So maybe if you had 15 points on nationality allocation, and then something in salt, something in the NFL was maybe NFL was 2 points, and then the NFL situation gets to a situation where it's kind of going against whatever supports your NFL like fandom, then it gets to a situation. I mean, whatever supports your nationality fandom, then it's easy for you to just drop the NFL. So even your 2 points of allocation to NFL may be higher than somebody who's like a 1 pointer on NFL, not that big of a fan of it. But since they don't have a high nationality thing, their team can be constantly, can be on the daily, can be out there. Like, it could be the San Francisco 49ers, where the whole thing, ground zero for this whole thing, for the whole like taking a knee thing, and they kept doing it throughout the season. They had really crappy season. They were really low on it. They didn't have that many wins. I think they didn't win until week 10 or something. But they got Jimmy Garoppolo, who was the backup for the was the backup for the Patriots, and then now they had a good season. But anyway, a team like that, somebody would be like, okay, I have 1 point allocated to sports, but since I don't really care too much about nationality, this team could do anything they want about the actual country. But as long as they're still playing sports, I can still actually still support this team because of that. So I think that's kind of part of that. If that makes any sense. So next I'm going to talk about predictions, making predictions or analyzing things and how those work. When you come to the NFL, when you come to something like the Super Bowl, this thing is a major thing. A lot of money is bet on this. People's careers are made out of this, but also outside of that, a lot of people are spending a lot of time and a lot of money on trying to figure out who is going to win this game. So you have a situation where entire networks, entire organizations, entire businesses spend millions and millions of dollars just to try to study and understand what's happening with these people. Now they have metrics, metrics. Yes, they have football metrics where they know the heights, the weights, the speeds, the strength, the abilities of all these players, and they try to get all these intangibles. And they have things like they ranked all the players on the Philadelphia Eagles roster versus the New England Patriots roster. I think 14 out of the top 25 were on the Philadelphia Eagles starting squad, and then the other ones were on the Patriots. But the Eagles were still the underdogs. Why? Two reasons. Because on the other side you have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, probably the best quarterback to ever play the game, and probably the best coach that ever coached the game, and definitely one of the best dynasties organizations. The New England Patriots that just ran amazingly by Mr. Robert Kraft and the Kraft family. It's just a well-run, well-oiled machine. So people are like, that's a juggernaut. Tom Brady's coming in with a chance to win his sixth Super Bowl, and that's six Super Bowls. I think they said there was something like 14 teams combined, or almost half the league combined, teams in general, don't have as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady has with his 5 or the 6 that he was going to get. He was going to be the first quarterback to get the 6th. I think he's still the greatest quarterback alive. I mean, to have ever played the game. Even if with this loss, he's probably going to play at least 2 or 3 more years. And he also threw for 505 yards in this loss. So if somebody had told you Tom Brady was going to throw for 505 yards and have the ball last in this game, would you think they would have lost? I think most people would have said no, they would have won that game. And that's the thing. A lot of people did call that. A lot of people said it's going to be a low-scoring, close game. New England Patriots have won the Super Bowl on average points of 3.7 points, which is less than a touchdown. And they've lost it on 4 points. This one was an 8-point loss on New England Patriots. But that's one of the reasons. The biggest stars on New England Patriots outshone all the stars or all the abilities on the Eagles, tentatively. Even though some analysts were like, look, the Eagles have a better team, but this is Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, not betting against that. So we're expecting that. The metrics, the Vegas people, they're getting some of the best people out there to get these spreads and things like that. Who's the underdog? Who's going to be the one to win? They were in there and they said the New England Patriots are going to win. But Another negative for Philadelphia Eagles was Nick Foles. Nick Foles was a backup quarterback. He has started before. He has played in Philadelphia before. He did have some amazing games coming up to this one, but he wasn't Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz was a quarterback. I think it was his second or third year, but Carson Wentz was having an MVP year, Most Valuable Player year. And that's what Tom Brady ended up winning Most Valuable Player after Carson Wentz got hurt with 3 games left in the season. So I also want to mention here, most people who win the MVP last year, I think Matt Ryan won the MVP, they didn't win the Super Bowl. And there's something with that, but even bigger, the Madden curse. I think Tom Brady was on the cover of the John Madden football video game, and they didn't end up winning. But anyway, so those two things were against them. All these people have all these stats, all this information to look at, and still, it's very hard to predict this thing when they still have to go out there and play. So when you have a lot of situations in the world where people make predictions out of some really dicey things, someone's going to be like, yes, it's going to be X temperature in 50 years from now. Or, oh, this race is going to be wiped out. There are going to be demographics in this area in one place. And then you ask them, what do you mean that? Like, how do you know that? What stats and information are you going based off of this? It's very hard to predict something like a game like this when you have so many different... When you have all this information about the people playing, you have the rules of the game, you know the time the game is going to be, you know the location of the game is going to be, you have a lot of film and evidence of just the previous behavior that all these people have had over the last like 5-6 years of their career, and you still get to that point, and people who have spent their entire day, who are being paid millions to understand this material, they can't make as accurate predictions, yet people are confident that they know what the temperature is going to be 100 years from now, or they know which country's demographics are going to change in the next 20 years, and they call like white genocide, and they say, oh, cataclysmic climate change, we need to change this, we need to stop this. So yeah, that's just a little break. Like, I think people need to take a chill pill a bit on some of these predictions of what's going to happen in the future. And another thing I'm trying to learn from these guys is trying to put a different kind of way on how I present my material. Because I'll see myself talking about certain topics that are out there, and then some of the people that I used to watch a lot more and still watch occasionally, I'll see them talk about that same topic, but they'll just do it in a way that I consider like, hey, they're just putting it in a more concise way, or they have a way about it. So when you see these analysts, you see like, these people are talking about the same game. So I'm trying to learn, like, why is Shannon Sharp talking about the game in this way, yet Chris Carter or Nick Wright are talking about the same game in this way? So how do you put your own little spin on the material? So I think that's one thing. If you guys have any suggestions on that, how do you guys talk about things? Now, on to the next thing. The Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, this is their first Super Bowl, and the city, I'm sure people out there are super excited. I went to Philadelphia a couple of times. When I was in high school, there was a Penn Relays, and I remember going through and seeing the city, and it was weird driving through. This time I was living in Washington, D.C. area, Montgomery County, which is like the suburbs of D.C. I hadn't been to too many other parts of the United States of America, but I remember driving through and just seeing like the city part, and it was just the urban areas. It was just in Philadelphia. It was like, looked like really good houses or well-kept houses, then like kind of urban, run down, like ghetto houses. And it was changing like from block to block, and that was kind of odd where the few times I'd been to DC and seen that, it was more like regions. It was more like, this is an entire neighborhood that's kind of more run down than this neighborhood. This neighborhood's of a different class and a thing like that. In Philadelphia, it was just mixing. But that's just an observation. But there's it's a city of brotherly love. There's most major cities in the United States of America have some kind of reputation and things like that that's tied onto them. No idea what that noise is. So back to this. They have some reputation to it, and a lot of people were saying after this game, were like, I wonder how many things are going to be burnt down. The city's going to be destroyed. Someone commented about how they have like one of the worst fans. They have some really reputation of being some really brutal fans, and that's something that they have, and that's just something around Philadelphia. Even though it's a city of brotherly love, they have this negative reputation as fans. So that's an odd thing about that. But I was just thinking about, if you have the way to just have this reputation about this entire group of people and just say, yes, that city's going to be destroyed. I hope things are not going to be burning XYZ. They're violent. They're horrible fans. Yet if you say that about other groups of people, you say like, okay, yeah, this group of people, when they just happen to be black, like I'm wondering, is there areas where there's like an entire black fan base? Like maybe Oakland, you can say like, oh, but no, but Oakland is a mix of fan bases. But you see that kind of generalization happens when it comes to people who choose to be in a certain situation, and that's a culture thing. There's a culture in Philadelphia that is considered to be of Philadelphia sports fans that considered to be a negative thing, and that goes back to what I was saying before. What's a lot? How many times do Philadelphia fans have to do this? Is it 10% of the fans? Is it 5%? Then it goes to all the fans? But when you talk about it in that fan sense, it's not necessarily like, oh, you're being this is to it. And I think that's the thing, because you can't put out the gender, you can't pull out some kind of sexual preference, you can't pull out some race. So people can't just be like racism, sexualism, or sexism, sexualism. Would sexualism be the sexuality based one? Anyway, so that's the kind of thing. This kind of observation say these fans are good, these fans are not. That's kind of a generalization that if you say that about certain groups, I see people taking that in a more negative way. Like someone was like, this is a situation where Philadelphia Eagles were the more woke team. There was an article I saw talking about that, and woke is more socially aware and involved with that. Yet, as I mentioned before with the New England Patriots, I think the way they run things is a very kind of like keep it tight, keep things inside. We want to control the environment. We don't want people talking too much about the inside. If you have more of flamboyant personality and things like that, you come on the team and you either adjust to the way people is more hushed down and people are just business, let's focus on what we're doing in here, or it's like a situation where you get shuffled back out even if you're a really good athlete. So one more thing, the New England Patriots. The way people were talking about there's this thing I was thinking about to the Patriots, how it's a very well-run organization. They've won a lot. They've won a lot recently. I think Tom Brady's now 5-3 in the Super Bowl. So that means they've been in the last eight Super Bowls in the last since Tom Brady was starter. So 8 Super Bowls. I'm thinking like 12 years, 16 years. I'm not sure how many years it was. I think 1 year he was off. Okay, so I'm not sure of the exact number of years that they made it to the Super Bowl, but they're the current dynasty. They're a team that a lot of people want to lose. They say these people are ahead of them. Oh, it's good to see these people lose. They have had some scandals like the Deflategate thing, which I think was a complete BS thing. Okay, whatever. Even if he's throwing it and he's throwing it a little better and the receiver can catch it a little better, if you are a cornerback and you can go up and catch it and get the interception, you can also do that a little better. So how many balls are actually dropped? I don't know. They need to go in and check and see, okay, how many dropped balls are there, how many slipped, how many times did he slip and not throw it? So even if they did find out that that was an actual thing, he's still throwing the ball. The other one was the recording of the signals, defensive signals, recording it down from, I think, the sideline, recording the signals they give, and like, okay, they do these signals, and then when they do those signals, this play is run, and then people saying, okay, so they know what we're doing. Yet you're allowed to record from higher up, and you're allowed to record like from maybe 20 seats up in the stands or something. And then with the technology that people have right now, the HD technology, you can go in and you can actually find the actual things. You could probably even find a way to like digitize it and digitize the person to like 3D model and then move them out. So actually finding out matching out the signals to the actual thing is not too big of a deal, depending on if you're down on the ground or up. And then another thing, these are probably things that a lot of other teams do. They just happen to get caught. But there's this kind of thing I was wondering, the New England Patriots, are they kind of like, do people kind of think of them as like a patriarchy? In like a patriotarchy? There was a patriotarchy going on in the NFL with Bradyarchy too, or Tom Bradyarchy, where people just wanted to see him lose, where he was just so good, and Belichickiarchy. Belichickiarchy. That's a good word. Belichickiarchy. So there's Belichickiarchy and the Bradyarchy, and the Patriotarchy. They all wanted them to lose. It's kind of thing where I kind of equated to some of what's going on in society, where they look at men and men are doing things at a high level, and then you have a certain group of people who just like say, if those men are doing those things better, there's no way the men can do those things better without cheating. They have to be doing something wrong. It's unfair. This thing is rigged towards men. It's rigged towards the Patriots. The Patriots always get things in favor of them. We need to have some kind of equality thing. Yes, we're going to root for the Patriots to lose. Oh, I don't even care about this thing that these men are doing, but just because now like women are doing it, yay, I'm going to support it. Or just because like white people aren't doing the same and now it's black people, I'm going to support that. I have no care about this thing. But just because the group that's not been doing it before, now is another group is doing it, now I'm going to like support and cheer that group. And I think there's something in the society, in all of us in general, that has this whole thing where it's like, yes, the underdogs, or yes, somebody else is doing this. I don't know if it's necessarily more because you think like, hey, if somebody's very successful at something and I'm not as successful at that thing, maybe if I see somebody else coming up and beating that person or getting successful at that thing, I could do that too. And I'm hoping it's more of that instead of being like, I just don't want other people to win at things because I'm not really that good at anything. So I kind of like seeing people being chopped down. So it's probably one of the two or part of both. But yeah. So did you guys watch the game? Have you guys been watching the season? Have you guys been boycotting the season? What do you guys think about this? Do you think Brady's still the greatest of all time? How much longer do you think he's going to play? I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with Carson Wentz coming back. I mean, he was the franchise quarterback. He's very young. He was having an excellent year. What's going to happen with Nick Foles? I'm making a prediction that Nick Foles is going to... I don't know. I wanted to say he's going to stay because I'm thinking like he came back, he was going to retire, then decided to come back and actually play for them. But he can go out and make a decent amount of money. But then one thing I just recently heard from watching a lot of these films and watching these things this season, watching people talk about this, a lot of athletes are now talking about sports and things like that. The sportscasters, they're talking about how actual stressful and damaging it is for some people to actually just move their entire family from one city to another. I've traveled, so I kind of have some knowledge of that. I can imagine how much more disorienting of traveling would be if I had a family with me as well. But also, they have millions of dollars in some cases to move their families with them. But you get the schedule, you get to feel the things, and because dad is normally not at home, there's a lot of things outside in the society, in the environment that your kids, especially have kids, a lot of things that your kids have kind of latched onto in those societies because they're not seeing their dad at that point. You know, if you're moving around and it's like, okay, your dad's at home, your mom's at home, and then you're moving around, you still have that core thing in there. But then I guess if you're moving around with kids, then it's like you leave and then it's like your kid's already used to this location, used to these friends, used to these things, and has made some connections with that, and then you just move on to another location. That can be a little different. But I mean, with what Nick Foles did, he can make a whole lot of money if he gets picked up by another team. The Eagles might give him some decent money as well. He might just like the city enough. From what he said, he seemed to be pretty enamored and pretty happy with the city. And I don't really see a problem with him doing that. I actually think, yeah, I'm going to make the prediction that he's going to say, I'm not putting up money on this, whatever. Actually, if somebody wants to bet me on that, maybe we could figure out a way, like change the PayPal or something. Anyone taking up on a bet? $10, $10 that Nick Foles is going to stay in Philadelphia for at least one more year. And he might even stay his whole career. I mean, the guy seems to be really a guy who just really likes playing football. He was going to retire and he was like, I wasn't having fun or it wasn't working. Seems like a guy who really likes playing football, comes out, wins the Super Bowl, likes the city of Philadelphia. He can still be there helping Carson Wentz. Why not? Why not just have like a really sick like backup that's won the Super Bowl? But anyway, so like, share, and subscribe. Links to the merchandise store below. Check that out, buy some stuff. I'm probably going to do like some dough or something, or some illustration for this. I don't know. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe. Goodbye.